Welcome to Cozy Noah Vibes, your place to relax, unwind, and drift off to sleep. My name is Adam, and I'm so glad you're listening tonight. Tonight's story, narrated by Arif and written by Layla, is about a man searching for his past. He embarks on a journey to reconnect with the traces of his childhood and rediscover the young boy he once was. I hope the new year has started positively for you. You might have set new goals and maybe you've already broken a few of them, but that doesn't mean you can't start fresh. Or maybe you prefer to keep things as they are and continue at your own pace. Either way, it's perfectly fine to relax before drifting off to sleep. Now, make yourself comfortable in bed, take a deep breath in, hold it for a moment at the top, and then gently breathe out. As you breathe in again, try to gather any tension into your shoulders, lifting them towards your neck, and then release the tension as you exhale. If it helps, imagine all the tension flowing from your shoulders down through your body and out through your toes as you breathe out. Relax and let go of any stress that's holding you back from fully unwinding and resting. You can continue with deep breaths as you open your mind to the story of a man named Merrick and his desire to revisit a place he hadn't been in many years. We'll join him on a journey to the beautiful Angel Island, a famous little island in the San Francisco Bay. Merrick stood on the shore, gazing at the small green island in the blue waters before him. When he drove up, the island seemed so close, it was hard to believe he needed a ferry to get there. Now, standing on the shore, he saw a relatively narrow but deep waterway separating him from the island. He was waiting for a ferry that would carry him across the channel. The boat shuttled back and forth on the sparkling blue water, which was much colder than it looked. It was, after all, the San Francisco Bay, fed by the icy waters of the Pacific Ocean and cooled by sea breezes. Merrick was in the town of Tiburon, a bayside town not far from San Francisco, and before him was Angel Island, the largest of several islands in the Bay Area. He had been here before, but that was decades ago when he was a child. Merrick's return to the island was driven by a desire to revisit a memory, to recapture the hazy, happy memories of his childhood. In his vague memories of Angel Island, there were sunny days spent with old friends and family members. These memories were a part of his time in San Francisco, where he had spent his early years before his family moved away for various reasons. Although he had lived a life full of gratitude, a subtle sense of loss had always accompanied him, and lately he had felt a growing desire to reconnect with that early part of his life. San Francisco was always sunny in his memory, which was strange because the city was known for its fog. Perhaps it was because the long hours spent outdoors in good weather left a strong impression, or maybe as a child he didn't mind the cold grey days. In any case, sun-drenched Golden Gate Park, Baker Beach, Haight Street, and San Francisco's Chinatown had all become recurring images in his mind. But perhaps the most unforgettable was the hazy memory of wandering the island with a group of friends and parents. He knew the island was Angel Island. In his memory, it seemed as large as a county and as tall as a mountain, though he knew it was only about 6 miles in circumference. These memories, along with a growing longing to relive them, eventually brought Merrick back to San Francisco, and for the first time in decades, to Angel Island. The ferry was approaching the dock, so Merrick shouldered his day pack and made his way to the fence where the passengers were lining up. The boat was tall and blocky, riding high in the water, more like an oversized toy tugboat than a real vessel. The crew opened the gate, and Merrick moved with the crowd onto the ferry, handing over his ticket. He climbed the steep stairs to the deck, excited like a child to take in the view and feel the wind on his face. Standing at the bow, he watched the waves sparkle in the sunlight, and the bustle of the boat and the wind made him feel a sense of vitality. It felt good being in this beautiful place, as though life was brimming with energy. It was as if he was rediscovering that joyful boy inside who used to relish these adventures, bringing those cherished memories into his life once more. The Golden Gate Bridge stood tall at the edge of the island, its reddish-orange span and iconic outline stark against the ocean backdrop. The ferry ride was short but pleasant. Soon they were approaching the island, slowly gliding into a picturesque little cove. The cove was dotted with small boats anchored near the shore. Merrick slowly descended the stairs and joined the line of passengers disembarking. Some people were pushing bicycles, and he noticed that the island, being a state park with no cars allowed, was perfect for cycling. Perhaps he would come back and rent a bike next time, he thought, but today he chose to walk, just like the kids in his memory. He stepped off the short pier, and immediately a sense of familiarity flooded over him, like a warm drink spreading through his body from the inside out. Though he had no clear memory of the island's layout, his body instinctively led him to a small cafe by the bay, where he was sure he could buy an ice cream sandwich like the ones he remembered from childhood. Merrick entered the cafe, and despite the passage of years, he vividly remembered the taste of the treat. As a child, it had been a rare indulgence, and now, as an adult, he could enjoy it once again. He sat at a table outside the cafe, unwrapped the sandwich, and the familiar scent of the ice cream wafted up. He took a small bite, and the taste brought back memories long forgotten, memories of innocence and joy. He quietly savored the sweet treat, flipping through a pamphlet about Angel Island. The island's name came from a Spanish lieutenant who visited it in the late 18th century while charting the San Francisco Bay. Following the common practice of Catholic European explorers at the time, he named the island after the nearest religious feast day to his arrival. Hence it was recorded as Isla de Los Angeles. Merrick put down the pamphlet and looked out over the bay. The small boats were moored near the dock, and others were anchored a little further offshore. On the other side of the waterway were the green Tiburon Hills, dotted with houses. The distant towns along the hilly coast reminded him of Italian villages and the Mediterranean coastline. It was an idyllic scene, yet he had no memory of seeing it as a child. As a boy, he was more focused on exploring and discovering rather than on the scenery. At that moment, the mix of nostalgia for this place and the rediscovery of a childhood favorite treat brought Merrick a sense of inner peace. His steps were light yet steady, enveloped in the warmth of memory and the glow of childhood. He silently thanked himself for allowing this journey back into the past. The main road curved up a hill, and Merrick had an unconscious feeling that it would lead him to a perimeter trail around the island, though he had no recollection of ever taking this path. His memories were vague, but his body seemed to know where to go. Without hesitation, he turned right onto the perimeter trail, and the island's beauty began to unfold before him. He looked up, and in the distance, tree-covered hills reached out to meet the blue sky. The air was cool with a hint of sea breeze, and sunlight filtered through the tree canopy, casting dappled patterns on the ground. Merrick continued walking, slowly but contentedly. He had never imagined that he would return here, but now, on this familiar land, he had rediscovered a lost part of himself. He knew this journey was not just about reminiscing, but about reconnecting. Merrick spent the better part of the day walking the perimeter trail, enjoying the closeness to nature and renewing his emotional connection to this place. As time passed, he realized that he was no longer the boy who ran and played on the island, but a man who was willing to remember, cherish, and reclaim those happy times. He couldn't help but smile, realizing that this journey was not just about revisiting memories, but about bridging the past and the present. He no longer relied solely on fuzzy memories, but had created new experiences, breathing new life into Angel Island in his heart. As the day drew to a close, Merrick decided to head back to the dock, ending his day on the island. He knew that this journey down memory lane wouldn't be the last. Angel Island would continue to hold a special place in his life. He was no longer just nostalgic. He was seeing his life through a new lens. As the ferry pulled away from the shore, Merrick stood quietly on the deck, gazing back at the island as it slowly receded into the distance. The sea breeze brushed against his face, bringing a slight chill, but it made him feel incredibly warm inside. Merrick closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and felt a wave of peace and gratitude wash over him. No matter how time passed, he knew those cherished memories would always be with him. He had found what he had been searching for, not just the old memories, but a renewed love for life and acceptance of the past. As the ferry sailed back to Tiburon, Merrick knew he had completed this journey, but many more journeys awaited him, filled with new possibilities and discoveries. As this story comes to an end, continue to relax and slowly drift into your dream world. Thank you for joining us tonight. I hope you have a peaceful night and sweet dreams. Once again, thank you for listening to Cozy Noah Vibes. My name is Adam, and I'll see you in the next episode.